So Frida, you've mentioned a lot that has touched me deeply. You mentioned about how hard it was to be a female in architecture and how you really wanted to be on ground and interact with people and design with your hands and with your subjects. So a lot has changed since then, but a lot hasn't changed as well. I finished my degree recently. It's 5 years recent. I finished my architectural degree recently, and I've been practicing as a production designer in the concert space, and the problems are the same. You get into a space, you're trying to interact with the builders, but you encounter a lot of men who already know what they're doing and are not interested in conceptualization, in interaction. So I hear you completely on that. on that. What you said and what Uncle Michael said about scenographic education, though we might, as Ugandans, though we haven't had managed to have formal training in scenography, we believe, thanks to Kampala International Theatre Festival, thanks guys, you guys are amazing. Wow, this talk, I never thought in my lifetime, but here we are. So we believe that through not just formalizing education in scenography, but making it intentional, we will be able to have a more sustainable culture of scenography in Uganda for, how do I phrase this? Let me see. It will be more sustainable for our culture in theatre as Ugandans, for us to formalize and teach scenography from the basics, conceptualization to building and interacting. So we are excited to have you here, friends of scenography, and we pray that there'll be even more gatherings and more teachings, and I can't wait to see what that turns out into, like the next 20 years. So I just had a conversation with Rob about the space of theatre in Uganda and how it's been westernized. The spaces within which we are creating are Western. And I'd like Rob to introduce himself, what he does, how he got into scenography. Yeah, and we'll start there.
Okay, thank you. My name is Rob Eastman Mullins, big long last name. I am, as a scenographer, it's actually not a word we use in the United States very often. I use it because I don't just do scenery, I do scenery, lighting, and costumes in that order. I'm also a professor of design and production for performance design at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. So the way I got into it, I'll try to keep it brief because it was a long story. I was an actor. And I was even a professional actor when I could be. And then there came a point where I left. I went to a year of school. I did theater while I was there, but that's not what I was there to do. And then I dropped out of university for 6 or 7 years. I went into business and made a lot of money for how young I was. And one day, at that time, I was working for a cleaning company who was I was in charge of Mobile Oil World Headquarters building. So this big thing, and I just had this revelation that it didn't mean anything. I was like, everybody needs their floors cleaned and their trash emptied and their carpet vacuumed. Why do I have to be involved in doing this? And so I decided to go back to school and study theater. And I wanted to open my own theater, so I went back to learn as much as I could. I wanted to take every single theater class that I could and learn all of it. And so my first year, I continued to work actually full-time. I would have to drive an hour to school, go to classes. I wouldn't take a class after noon, after 12 p.m., drive another hour back home, change clothes, drive, depending on traffic, to work. And luckily, since it was a cleaning company, it was at night, so I could do this. So that first year that I was in school, I took an intro to design class in the theater. And then the design class that was offered the next semester was scenic design. And so I took that. I was taking everything. And when I was young, I was always drawing. I was an artist, or at least what I thought was an artist. And I had just kind of given that up. I would doodle sometimes, whatever, but I didn't really do it. And so when I took this scenic design class, and I was also interested in architecture when I was young too, I would draw ground plans of dream houses and restaurants or whatever. And so when I took this scenic design class, I was naturally kind of good at it, especially the communication part of it. I understood space from wanting to be an architect and being an actor, actually, because you need, we're making space for performers, not for the audience. So everyone thought I was there to be a scenic designer. And so I did go on and take all the classes. My degree is actually in theater. I have a theater degree and a theater management degree. But people started asking me to design their shows. And so I did. And at some point, to cut the story short, I made a career choice to do scenography. It wasn't a difficult choice because I really enjoy it. So, yeah, that's the. Please don't clap for me. I have not done anything to deserve applause.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Rob has touched on some interesting things in his introduction, apart from being amazing at what you do, apparently. You said you were making space for actors, and as an actor, it was easy for you to interpret that into scenic design, right? So it made me think about how immersing ourselves in spaces would make it easier for us to design for those spaces. So if there's any architect in the building, if you're designing for a doctor, be a patient for a while, move around the hospital and then design for the hospital. Or be a doctor for a while and then design for the doctor. He also mentioned the bit where he was doing a job and it didn't mean anything. You've mentioned passion, which Uncle Mike also mentioned, being driven to do things because of passion. This is about tales of scenography, guys. I'm digressing. But I met with Brian Irogo. Okay, cool. I've just met Brian, actually. I met him at his installation down in the Crafts Village, which I think is amazing. So I'm going to let Brian introduce himself. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you from? What does Irogo mean? Yeah.
Hi, guys. I think I'm going to stand. So my name is Brian Irongo, as she said. I'm a scenographer from Kenya. So how did I start my scenography journey? So I also started out as an actor. So it was in 2017. So we created this theater group. And along the way, I discovered that we were missing something. And whatever we were missing is the scenography, the set design. And what I started at campus, I'm a trained journalist. But then again, I'm so good at painting and drawing and coming up with crazy stuff. So that's how I got into scenography. Yeah, because we had that lacuna, and nature does not allow for a lacuna. There's always a way for the nature, to fill up that space. So when I started out by just, doing the sketches and of the sets. But down the line, that was in 2017. But in 2020, when there was COVID, because we had a lot of time that we used to spend in our houses, that's how I started now woodworking. So the first thing I did was I had books in my room that I didn't have a bookshelf. So I went online, and the first thing that I built with my hands was a floating rope shelf. And from that, people were like, "Oh, you're doing this. I'd love you to build a seat for me, a bed for me." So that's how now I moved from just designing to set construction. That was 2020. Moving forward, I started doing workshops, DIY workshops, woodworking workshops, and also painting workshops. Yesterday we had a painting session. So when you come to my workshop, So we moved from an idea, conceptualizing, and at the end of the day, you go home with a finished product. So now it's like, people usually come and go home with something that is just theirs. What if we now build something that is common, something that is bigger than me, bigger than you, something that is, a communal space. So that's how I came up with Town Bombao, which is a space outside theater. Creating a performance space outside the usual spaces, because in Kenya we usually have a lot of problems getting spaces for performance. So I was like, what if we created a space that is, that can be mobile? What if you take theater outside theater? So that's how I came up with Town Bombao. What was the question again? I'm sorry. Yeah, I have a lot to say. Yeah.
Let me just help there.
Yeah.
Can you mention your upcycling of pallets?
Sorry?
Upcycling
Oh, okay,
of
yeah.
pallets seems to be a crucial part of your practice.
Thank you. Like I told you, so when I started out in 2020 doing furniture, so I realized that we waste a lot of resources, cutting trees to create furniture, but we have pallets that have already been used, but we can use them again to create, beautiful stuff. I call it giving it a second chance, giving stuff a second chance in life. Yeah. So pallets are a very big part of my practice. The repurposing of the pallets to create furniture, to create sets, and that's how we were able to do the Town Bombao through recycling of the pallets. I think I'm losing my thought process.
But that's okay. We can start there. We can start there. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's put our hands together for Brian.
Thank you.
Brian has an installation in the Crafts Village, just down there. If you haven't seen it yet, please make sure to pass by and ask him to explain it to you and guide you through it.
I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, because I loved it. I went by and I loved it so much. I was so happy. So the last panelist is Barbora. I think I was talking to not Barbora, but Rob, about how recently I visited Theater alla Scala in Milan. And we're talking about how it has such a huge warehouse for production. So all the scenography happens in a huge space. There's one separate space for carpentry, one separate space for metallic works, one separate space for assembling the entire production together, the entire set together. So we're talking about big budgets. I'm talking about big because Barbora works with something big. One of the biggest conventions for scenographers in the world that brings about 80 countries. So I'd like for her to introduce herself, what she does, what her story is, and what that conference or convention or festival is.
Thank you very much. Maybe I can say a few words and then we can show it. Yeah, I have a short video to share with you guys. So, hi again, my name is Barbora Přihodová. I come from the Czech Republic. I'm Czech, but in the past 12 years, for various reasons, I have lived in the US, but I'm still very Czech. That's crucial. And this is my first time in Uganda, first time in Africa. I love it here. Thank you for having me. Thank you and congratulations to the organizers. The festival is amazing and we are having the best time. So I'm just want to put it out there before I talk about us. I'm Czech and we have a very strong tradition on theater and scenography in the Czech Republic. For some reason, we are people that also love literature, storytelling, but we also love things that are visual. Visual communication is crucial for us. And so we have developed this culture on scenography for a long time. We have schools, formal training. We have institutions that document scenography, that archive scenography. And we also have this event that I now lead as an artistic director, and that's called Prague Quadrennial of Performance Design and Space. And it's the largest, international largest event dedicated to scenography and performance space. It was founded in 1967 during the Cold War as a project in which countries can present their culture, their scenography in particular, together. We started with 20 countries. We had one country from Africa, 1967, Tunisia. First and last time, unfortunately. PQ, Prague Quadrennial, has been going on ever since, every 4 years since 1967, without interruption, throughout different political regimes, throughout different, hostile situations. We have been going on and have been able to have this continuity. And so right now, we have the participation. It varies from year to year, but it tends to be around 80 countries. Most of them from Europe, but also other countries as well. From Africa, we've had representations coming from Morocco, from Egypt, South Africa, and we would like to see more, of course. I also want to say that it's not always easy to describe the event, but it grew from this idea of exhibitions. So you would walk around and literally see exhibitions, installations, the way countries represent their scenography. But over the time, we have grown into incorporate more live performative events. So right now, I think the shortest way to describe it, it's a combination of exhibition and festival of performance. So you will find both of it. It's really large, and there's a lot happening during those 10 days when we meet once in 4 years. And we have parts, like I said, where countries represented their scenographic cultures, and we don't curate those. And it's up to the individual countries how they're going to do it. But we also have parts that are curated by us, where we have open calls. We have international team of curators who select the participating artists, and that's how we kind of bring our program together. And yeah, I have a short video. It's a trailer, really, less than a minute, that I hope will give you an idea of what PQ is like. It's about the atmosphere. We always like to say that scenography for us is about creating performative environments and creating atmospheres, whether it's through, light, sound, projection, media. And I should also say the people that come and join us for PQ are not always trained or identify as scenographers. More and more we have people that are visual artists, architects, multimedia, designers, performers, you name it, choreographers, all of it. We're all about, performance, but yeah, the visual and audio aspect of it more than anything.
So how does someone get into PQ? How do we as Africans, since Tunisia in the 1960s, get into into the space? Yeah.
So the representation through countries, like I said, that's not so much in our control. We always, when we put out our calls and the theme, every PQ has its theme. It's a little different. For the next PQ, it's going to be in June 2027. In June 2025, so in about half a year, we're going to announce the theme. We're going to announce all our open calls. And that's the moment where we contact different embassies, consulates, representations of countries. We always also reach out to our contacts, all networks that we have, to put the information out there. And we do our best to support through various ways for the countries to come and represent. And then so that would be the official part curated by the countries. But then there are the calls, like I said, for individual artists. You can apply for the call, and the curators select that. Also, we always try to find ways to bring people on top of that. So there is always a way, or we're trying to find a way to bring people and kind of raise the awareness and grow our participation. So there are multiple pathways to do that.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Can we have a hand for Barbara? Everyone is special here. Everyone deserves their flowers. So, do we have any scenographers in the audience? Oh, amazing. So I'm going to there are two of you. So you're going to be an audience panel-ish. I'd like you to share how you got into scenography, what it's like so far, and what you do really. So I'm sorry for bombarding. Is that the word?
I got a call from Tebere Arts Foundation asking me to join scenography. I think they saw something unique in me that I didn't really know about myself. And because I am one of their emerged artists, I attended the Emerging Artists Intensive Lab in 2023 to 2024. So their aim is to help emerging artists discover their artistic voice, but at the end of the lab, I really discovered a lot and I got confused at a moment on what to major on. So, yeah, and yesterday, after watching the play People of Mine, I was really super proud of the work
Thank you so much, Tebere Arts, for this opportunity for young creatives in Uganda and for the theater space in Uganda. So before we go on to the questions from the audience, I'd like for us, our panelists, to share honestly. As a production designer, there have been sets I have been on that have failed. There are sets I have been on that have been super successful. There's always a story and one major lesson, I guess. So I'd like for us to share quickly, like in 2 minutes, one set that we have worked on but has been very impactful, either through success or failure. Please be free. Yeah, so let's share just one set in 2 minutes quickly, and then we'll go to the questions from the audience.
Thank you so much. Yes, I had one colossal failure during this production, Phantom of the Opera, and the producer. I did the scenography for them. The producer, she said, "I need that. What's it called? The chandelier. I need the chandelier to be spectacular, and it must happen. And I need the boat to kind of fall in a certain pattern." And so we used casters, which were shriveling casters, which was a mistake. But I also thought they could be stopped, they could lock them in there. So then the electricians, the lighting guys said, we want 2 lines of electricity so that they could have, each of those bulbs could be lighting, in different motions. And so I gave them the 2 lines, but then they did not actually know how to connect them. And I was wondered how they could be electricians, they could connect them. So they failed to connect these lights here. On the opening night, I almost died of heart attack.
We're so glad you're still here with us. Glad that heart attack didn't happen. Okay. Would anyone else like to share? What was your takeaway, though, from that?
My takeaway was that once, I think, scenography, it is a pot of all forms of expertise coming together, and you must work together with the lights people, with the costumer, with the stage managers to be able to pull off a production. The moment there is a disconnect, like in terms of the Phantom of the Opera, there was a disconnect between the scenic designer and the lighting people, because they were contracted from somewhere else and we never had a rehearsal with them. That was the problem. That was my take home.
Yeah, that's powerful. Actually, you don't get to be a prima donna in the production space. You have to work as a team. You can't play God. Unless you're the director, of course, and you want things moving a particular way. Would anyone else like to share an experience, a profound... Okay.
So one of the most challenging things about being a scenographer is that the script writers the performers expect you to be a magician. You know, they're like, we have 1 week to the show, and we need this thing to be built. So it's always about time. You know, they're like, you guys, you can do it, you know, any other time. So there was this one time, I was in Kisumu. Kisumu is a city in Nairobi. It is in the western part of Nairobi, which borders Uganda. So I was called on Saturday. They were like, we have a show that is starting on Friday this week, and we had a scenographer that for some reason went missing. Can you kindly come through for us? So now I was in Kisumu. I needed to go back to Nairobi. So I went back to Nairobi on Sunday. So on the way they were like, you cannot go back to Nairobi. First drop here where we are going to have the show so that you can get to show you what you want, you know. So that was on Sunday. Their play starts on Friday. So they need their set ready on Thursday. So the set was a train. So you're supposed to build a train, a whole fucking cabin of a train. So sorry for using the curse words. So this on Sunday they are telling me about their design. Then on Monday, that's when they are gonna release cash. On Monday. So now you only have Tuesday and Wednesday. And on Thursday they are on your neck. Where is our train? Where is our train? So there's that. People expecting you to work on very limited time and get something that, you know, that is spectacular.
That experience, how has it shaped your career as a scenographer today? What have you changed since, yeah?
So what I learned was I need extra hands. And it made me learn how to, you know, manage the human resource, you know. So we have like 10 people. So what you need to do is guide them and tell them that, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, so that we can work, should I call it maximally, on limited time? Yeah? Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Well, you know how we're from different countries, but the experiences are the same. So would you like to share any experience? It can be a colossal failure, it could be a colossal success. Does colossal work for success as well? Okay, cool.
Hello? Yeah. Just a tiny thing that probably all have experienced. I didn't experience it, but I knew the people. There was a theater group went to Vienna with their set, and their set was a big, big box. And everybody had measured that the box would just go through the main door. So but of course they were trusting the drawings. Nobody had actually really gone to that door to get the measurements. And in the architectural drawing you had the concrete opening, but nobody thought about actually the actual wooden frame of the door. So they came with that box and it just did not get in any way. It was super heavy. So they lost, I think, 2 days because they, in the end, found a way to go through the cellar, but it was going downstairs. So they needed 4 people doing that. The piano people are actually very good in carrying heavy stuff. So there was almost no time anymore left for the build-up. So what I learned is really either you go there yourself, really make sure there's not all of a sudden a fire extinguisher where you think you could put your set, or they just installed a new heating system which is not drawn on the plans. I mean, plans are nice, but actually you have to really be in the space to understand what will be the problems and talk to the people. And what I like as well, when I go there, and I try to make sure that I'm in every space where I'm going to perform, to have the set, I'm there. And before, and that maybe comes a bit to the questions, how do I select colors, forms, and so on. I actually go there and talk to the people who, are working in the space. And they have seen maybe for the last 20 years sets come come and go, come and go. And so I asked them 2 questions, like, what does never work? And for example, in that very venue, they said, everybody tries to do a white set in this black space, and it just doesn't. And I was actually wanting to do the same thing, and I was so happy to think, okay, they have their experience for some reason with the lighting, it just doesn't work. And on the other hand, they say, what does your room actually give to me, which nobody has used yet? And then they're getting, a lot of times, these people who know their room in and out, they get very excited. I said, we have this, I don't know, this trap door, or we have this door which nobody uses. It used to be, this art, industrial something, and you could actually come in with a car because on the other side, or we have this floor which is okay taking water. You could, for example, and through these discussions, I try to get the people of the venue, being part of my design. They get excited because they gave me the idea, and I get, ideas that I wouldn't have thought about because I just go to the venue and I look, like for the normal things, but, the special things, I don't know. And so all of a sudden, we can create very specific, very special things that you can't create anywhere else. So, yeah, something like this.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, how do I join your class? But okay, I love that. I love that so much. Let's move to the next person who also would like to share, really. Colossal successes or failures in the space within which you exist. I know that Barbara isn't a scenographer. She is a theater historian. Yeah, she has PhDs, guys.
Yeah, that's... So my background is in theater history, and so with specialization in scenographers, so I'm really a person that really admires the work of scenographers to the extent that I want to research it, and I want to write about it, and I want to preserve it, and I see myself more as an advocate or promoter of scenography. So I have a lot of stories of failure by other people, and I don't feel like that's, appropriate to share. But I just want to say that for me and what I've been able to witness through my work, scenographers are the most creative, the most resourceful people who can turn any kind of challenge into something positive and take a little bit and something amazing grows out of that. So I don't even want to talk about failures, it's just...
Or successes. Before that, you mentioned that you have studied scenography. Where can we find material, literature on scenography?
Okay, so one of the things that we do at PQ, for instance, we have started, because a part of our program, we have talks like that. We have a lot of people coming and talking about their work, and it's the most amazing experience for people to share, show us, and explain, because very often you see the exhibitions, you see the performances, you can have a great time, but it's also sometimes great to hear the context, because people are from all over the place and you don't necessarily understand. So we have what we call PQ Talks, and we have started recording those. So for instance, that would be one resource that I think is quite nice. Our webpage, we have what we call, pq.cz. There is a digital archive, and all the talks of the people are recorded there. We recently held a symposium on technologies in theater performance and exhibition design, technologies in the widest sense of the word. We also recorded everything that's been right now processed to be uploaded later. But our webpage, I would say, with all modesty, it's a good start to find some materials about scenography.
Thank you. Yes, Rob.
So I'm glad you asked about failure, actually, because in my design studio for the design classroom at my university, I put a sign on the door a long time ago that said, "This is a safe place in which to fail, but only in an endeavor to dare." So it's not permission to fail in terms of just, I'm not going to do the work. It's permission to fail in the work. And I think because you learn far more from your failures than your successes. I would say you learn 20 times more from a failure than you do a success. If you get it right the first time, there's probably something wrong with it, and you probably didn't learn anything anyway. But so the example that I always think of, I was working on a show called Intimate Apparel, and it's about a woman who makes clothes. And so I wanted the backdrop to be, it was all going to be this large, very large lace curtain. And like a panel of lace, huge. And so the lace that we got was white. And it's kind of a unwritten rule in theater that you don't put pure white on stage unless you're going white with everything, because that will be the thing that attracts the attention, and it will reflect light when you don't want it to reflect light. So we had gotten it hung, and I saw this thing. I said, "Oh, it's a big white surface that I was the lighting designer as well." And I said, "You know what? Let's dull it down." And so, because it was already hung, and because we didn't have a big paint space to work with, I said, we'll fly it in, and we'll spray it. And as we spray it, we'll move it up. Well, some of you may realize, I did not, that what happened is the spray that didn't make it onto the drop in the first pass fell straight down onto the drop that had collected on the floor. So when we flew it out and we were done, we stepped back, and it's got these triangles of darker areas, and it was ruined. I mean, it was ruined for the purpose that we were using it for. So what was the takeaway? And the thing that I try, and I do try to do this in my life as well, so if I can give you anything, is don't solve a problem until you have it. That doesn't mean don't have a plan. It just means don't solve a problem until you have it. And in that case, I was like, oh, I don't think that's going to work. But I could have found out in the technical rehearsal, and I would have had a plan to spray it down, and we would have done the same fuck up that we did. Brian gave me permission to use it. So we would have had the same issue that we had, and so yeah.
Well, thank you all for sharing. Let me check how much time we have left. Oh, so we have, how much time do we have left? 11 minutes. Any questions from the audience? Someone earlier asked about color. She answered color and material. Would anyone else on the panel like to talk about color and material? How they work with it, how they select it? Okay, Rob. Okay.
Color is the trickiest bit about designing, quite honestly, because it's the most powerful tool that you have. So there's not an easy answer to your question, but the first thing I would say is to start with the way the play feels, so the way the production, whatever it is, how it feels to you. And I'll even ask, I'll ask this of myself, I'll ask it of my students, what color is the play? And you can usually say, is it blue? Oh, no, it's definitely not blue. Or if it is blue, what blue? There's so many blues. Is it red? And that doesn't mean that I necessarily pull that color in, but it's a good place to start. You may think it's warm, or it's cool, or it's neutral. The other thing I do that I believe in, the key to the design, in my opinion, is research. Both research of whatever your world is, but I also do what I call connotative research, and this is research that does not involve directly the story, the play. So what is it really about? And what does that say to me? So if I'm like, this play is about betrayal. Okay, what does betrayal look like? And I'll go and I'll just flip through art books, and I'll look at paintings, and I'll look at sculpture. I love looking at sculpture because it's already in 3D, and for sets we design in 3D. And I find things that speak to me, and a lot of times there are colors that speak to me. I would say my color palette comes from my connotative research 90% of the time. The other percent of the time is something that's a little more realistic, and honestly, I find somebody else's color palette. Like, so for example, I'll look and maybe I'll find some fabric that I'm going to use on the walls. Well, then there's my color palette, and I find this fabric, and I say, okay, let me pick this color from here and this color. What is the complement to that color? I need to add that in there. So it's a complicated question.
Yeah, it's actually it has multiple layers. Brian had a...
I was going to talk about the color theory, which is very important. You need to understand how people perceive color and how color affects how people see things, you know. Let me just use an example of the people that are here, you know. Starting from her, the color purple. When you see the color purple, it has that reality feel, you know, because purple is not a very easy color to find in nature, you know. So it's very rare, and when you have color purple on stage, that means, you know, it's the royalties, you know, the kings, the queens, you know. Black. What does black make you feel like, you know? There's red. When you see red, the first thing you're like, danger, you know? So in scenography, what you usually do is you are just reflecting what usually happens in nature. You know, when someone sees red, they're like, that's fire. You know, blue is very calming. So you need to do a lot of research. You cannot just be like, I just want to put this color because it looks good. No. Whatever color you're using has a lot of effect on how people perceive whatever you're sharing. Yeah.
I hope you're all paying for this information. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. I understand that there are some people here that are scenographers, but also come from another background, like architects or whatever. So my question is, what can scenography teach us in the real life, out of the theater or the stage contest? Thank you.
Frida, would you like to go first?
Yes,
Actually, I just wanted to say a small thing about color as well. What I enjoy about color, because I work with models a lot, I enjoy that color has no scale. So when I've found the right color, I can go into the shop saying, this is what I want. And I don't need any printout, and the printouts are not what I saw on the computer screen and blah, 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 blah. But I have the color on my hand and I know how difficult it is to mix and what kind of shades and where to go wrong and so on. And with the model and the colors in there, I know as well how much of the blue I need against all that red. I think to really find out not only the colors, but how much of what will make, you know, my space and which colors at the back and in the front. I think that is as well something that can be and should be played with or something.
I have a question, Frida, about colors and your workflow. Do you work with dyes and make the colors in your studio?
Sorry, I in my model, I just
mix the colors yourself?
Yes.
Okay. That was my question. Would you like him to?
It's a difficult one.
Okay.
I just start and then I go to the rest. What does scenography do as well?
If there is something that scenography can teach us in the real life out of the stage, like to other professions, like to architects or engineers?
I think what scenography can do is actually build dreams. I think you can try out things there, almost again like a model that you can't do in art. I mean, sometimes you do model houses or something, so you really try out what happens if I have a door which is like 6 meters wide and it's actually like a wall turning or something. I know from people who lived in such model houses to actually then give feedback, but you normally don't do it. You just do something on paper and model and you just build it. While in scenography, you could actually build some sort of dream and see people interact with it and therefore gain information on how it could look like, how could it feel like. You get the information, feedback from the actors, and you can, dream. And since it doesn't have to last for many, many years, you can try it out with sort of cheaper materials. And this is what I'm just thinking. So let's see what other people are saying.
Okay.
Well, from a practical standpoint, there's all kinds of things you learn. You learn how to paint, you learn how to build, you learn color. I am the default color chooser in my house. My wife always defaults to me in questions of color. She doesn't take my advice all the time, but she does. But I think it's actually something that's more what theater teaches. No matter in what a lot of the students I get are not going to be theater practitioners. And I still think that a theater degree is one of the best degrees because you have to learn to speak in front of a group. You have to learn to work with other people. You have to learn how to communicate well, including writing. Writing is so important. You know, a lot of people think, oh, you don't write. I'm like, of course I write emails, and they better be well written. Bad writing will close doors to you that you never even knew were open. And it teaches you to work on a deadline. The show opens when the show opens, whether you're ready or not. And it teaches you to collaborate with other people, especially scenographers, especially, you know, all designers have to work. And I don't know a career in this world that if you want to reach higher levels, that you don't need to do those things. All of those things are important, no matter what. If you're going to be in business, if you're going to be an architect, you have to work with other people, you have to speak in front, all that stuff. And theater gives you all of that.
Uncle Mike?
I think for me, scenography has gone a long way to show me how to use my space. I don't care what space you are giving me, whatever space I've got, through scenography and through the practical aspect of the way I work with scenography, I can use any space that is given to me, and I can use it optimally and enjoy the space. Okay, so that's the kind of thing which I think, but that's my take home about scenography, that it teaches you how to view space in a way that is usable to you and to people around you. That's how I look at it.
I think what scenography teaches is that you need to be very observant. You need to, be very curious and never lose your child, that inner child, the curiosity, of wanting to learn, why does this work this way? Why should this turn to blue if I use, a blue light? What happens if it's green? How does it change? Scenography teaches you to keep on tapping into your inner child, that playful child. Using an example of my installation, the Matatu, so every time someone comes here, they're like, I love to use this Matatu for this and this and this, because that Matatu inspires them to, feel like that child. They're like, I think if I could do a play inside here, it'd be amazing. Yeah, so I think scenography allows you to, tap into that inner child that makes us artists, the curiosity of understanding the colors and how people relate to shapes, because shapes also mean a lot in scenography. Because I don't think we're talking about shapes, we only talk about colors, but they also shapes and the different dimensions of things. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a safe space. So we are closing this. Oh, there's a question. I think we'll take one more. So how many people have questions? 1, 2. Should I mini, miny more? But since we started late, guys, but there's another program after this, right? So we have to keep time. Yeah. So one person, mini, miny more, and then.
Yeah, choose Mo.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much. My name is Linus and I'm a scenographer with Frida and Friends of Scenography. My question is, first of all, I'm inspired by works that people do and there is a signature. You look at something and you know this is Uncle Awio. You look at something, you know that this is Frida. There are those things that artists do and you look at their work and you know this is someone's work. My question is, how do you achieve that, or does that inspire you as well? Do you, scenographers at the panel, in the discussion, work with that? Thank you.
Thank you. That's actually a very good question. I'm glad you are the mo. Would anyone like to go first?
I think actually it's nothing you try to acquire, but it just comes out of you. I think there's nothing you can do. It's like a handwriting. The longer you are yourself, the more it becomes obvious. And actually, I personally try to not have too much of a handwriting, because I try to really serve so much the text, the space, the people, the director. But probably you're right. After all, that it is. I don't know. I would want to not have too much of a handwriting. So it really just the work that I do is that, yeah, to be one. I mean, to serve the play.
Anyone else? Anyone? Everyone is pointing. Anyone?
I think for me, I can't say I try to do work in scenography in a style that is my trademark. I don't want to look at it that way. I think when I do anything in scenography, I really must provide a solution to the director's challenge, and I must try to interpret or bring out the world of the play in the most easiest way possible and cost-effective way possible. That's what I would think. And so, if at all style kind of reflects that, then it's just by accident, but not because that's my style of doing things. I think that's not the way to look at it. Does it answer your question?
It answers your question. However, because it's free society, there are people who decide that their philosophy has to stand out. Someone might say, in my life, yellow is permanent, yellow is prime, it's the most important thing. So every time he designs or she designs, they'll design a yellow set. So there's a place, I believe, as well for people who think that way. But clearly, the people we have on set, on our panel today are they care about the productions more than they care about they're having their fingerprints out there in that way. So I'd like to thank you all. Oh wait, before, I had an answer for your question, being an architect and a scenographer. So what I've experienced from my side is scenography allows you, like Frida said, to experiment. So you get to interact with materials on a different level in a way that architecture wouldn't allow you to experiment. Architects are very rigid, and as a result, the profession grows slowly. You'll see very slow progress in architectural development vis-a-vis scenography, where you can experiment with anything. So what I have seen for myself is I've learned how to use materials in different ways. I've learned how to use paper in a structural way, for example, but only because I built a set out of paper. That's the one way. Anyway, I digress. It's been nice to have you here. We've had an amazing panel. My heart is so full. Thank you, Kampala International Theatre Festival. This is a dream come true for me and for many people in the audience. Yes, those are my closing remarks. And please stay behind. I'm sure you forgot my name. My name is Maria Shiba Atukonda. It's been a blessing being your moderator. Thank you, Uncle Mike, Brian, Rob, Barbora, and Frida.